Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Today's presentation, I wanted to focus on the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, his aspects of engaged Buddhism, and similarity to the teachings of Freemasonry. Growing through the initiatic paths in my life has taken me through Sufism, Freemasonry. I always had an intrigued interest in Buddhism as well, as I have done a video in the past on it. Also, when I was attending community college around 2017, when I was nearing the course of my graduation, one of the final courses that I had taken or was part of my semester was engaged Buddhism. So, putting two and two together and finding the oneness in all of these paths encouraged me to look into the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh in a world where it's so chaotic, there's so much going on. So I hope you're able to take something away from this presentation from my perspective as a Sufi Muslim and Freemason, and having studied Thich Nhat Hanh and engaged Buddhism in my life. So I hope my perspective aids you in your path as well. And always I appreciate all of you sticking by me. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. So before we talk about engaged Buddhism and the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, first we will get to know him. Thich Nhat Hanh was born, his original name is Nguyen Xiao Bao, so excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. He was born in central Vietnam in 1926, and by the time he was 16 years old, he entered or basically got initiated into the Zen Buddhist monastery, and then took the appellation of Thich Nhat Hanh, which led him to a life of contemplation, meditation, focusing on the inner being. And throughout the course of his life, he founded the School of Youth for Social Services, which is a SYSS. And also what he did was he went through like the rural areas, the village areas of Vietnam, and he tried to do what he could to help people with education, healthcare, social services, trying to help the people through the infrastructure. Now, by the time the 1960s came around, his life brought him to the United States, where he studied comparative religious studies at Princeton University. And then there also he started not only becoming fluent in several languages and traditions and religions, he got an understanding of the universal human family. And also it was in synchronicity him being in America in the 1960s, because it helped him pursue the efforts of promoting peace and stopping the Vietnam War, which was a country that was going through so much during that time. And he wanted both sides to be at peace. So one of his quotes that he says is that it is time for the North and the South Vietnam to find a way to stop the war and help all Vietnamese people live peacefully and with mutual respect. So for him, it was not about taking any sides. It was about bringing peace together as the great being that he was. Which also, another synchronicity about his life is that he ends up meeting with Dr. Martin Luther King and requesting Dr. King, through his venues and his voice as well, to speak out against the war, especially during that 1960s counterculture, which, had it succeeded, it would have really changed the world as we know it. And even Dr. King ended up nominating Thich Nhat Hanh for the Nobel Peace Prize in 1967. So during the course of the 1960s, late 1960s, Thich Nhat Hanh continued his foundation of establishing these different orders of mindfulness, finding the aspects of inner being, inner healing. And also it came to a point where even speaking out against the Vietnamese government exiled him. And during that exile, he ended up finding a home in France, what they call as the Plum Village. And not only he founded one in France, but throughout the world, also in introducing engaged Buddhism to the Western world. So his life had a purpose for all the things that he did in his life to bring knowledge and tradition and healing to the people that he was meant to. And he did a great job at doing that. So by the time 2005 came around, he was allowed to go back to Vietnam and do the great things that he was doing to teach people and educate people. And recently, at the beginning of this year, He passed away peacefully at the age of 95. So Thich Nhat Hanh he has made an impact on the world, and that's what it is. You in the Masonic tradition, they said you have to live respected and die regretted, and he certainly filled that role, or filled that phrase, as someone who taught people the aspect of circumscribing their desires, living life within due bounds, and always improving yourself daily in your thinking, knowing, and understanding. Now we look at the aspect of engaged Buddhism and the tradition and teachings that Thich Nhat Hanh introduced to the West and stressed in his life's work. And this is basically when I took that course in spring of 2017, right before I graduated from community college. Those are the same aspects that I learned from my professor and from the teachings as well, is that we have all these initiatic paths. You're teaching us all this information, but when does it come a time when it comes for you to apply those teachings to your life? Because without any application, there's a learning phase and there's an application phase. So if you don't have an application phase, then all of the learning is useless. And that's what engaged Buddhism stresses, is that, yeah, it's good. You're an initiate of the path and you have all of these teachings and all the things that are going on in your life. But at the end, how does it help you become a better man? You know, same like Masonic teachings. Yeah, you have all of the moral and allegorical lessons, but if you're not applying it to your life, then it's all meaningless drama. That's what it comes down to. If there comes a time where you can apply those engaged teachings to your vocation, to your family, to your life, to your dealings with yourself, your neighbor, just becoming a better, well-rounded human being. And that's what engaged Buddhism is extending compassion, compassionate action, moving into the world, exploring new terrain. Like it, even in Freemasonry, you're encouraged to be a traveling man and go around and increase knowledge wherever you find it, whichever altar you find it, whatever religion, country, or philosophy the light comes from, you take it. Many paths, different, one mountaintop, many different paths leading up to that same mountaintop. And just spreading joy, spreading compassion to humanity. And then often, we are often told throughout our lives the phrase, practice what you preach. This is exactly what engaged Buddhism is. The practice of the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and the life teachings of Guru Master Siddhartha Gautama, also known to the world as the Buddha. The best example of engaged Buddhism are the practices of Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen master from Vietnam who dedicated his whole life to helping humanity see the way, regardless of the many problems we still continue to face today in the modern 2022 world. And Thich Nhat Hanh, he describes the reality of human beings today as they are caught in a system where they are constantly worrying about bills, achievements, worries, anger, and regrets, and do not place their faith within or the universal laws which are there to aid and assist us. And Thich Nhat Hanh has said, quote, their mind is caught in their worries, their fears, their anger, and their regrets, and they are not mindful of being there. So he's teaching us to live us in the moment and not worry about what comes later. Focus on what you're dealing with now. Engaged Buddhism is something you take as a challenge to educate those around you in any way you can, in any environment you are meant to be in. The reality, even myself as a Muslim American I have faced in America, is regardless of organization, affiliations, degrees, titles, most people tend to be closed-minded. And it's not their fault, because their perceptions are based off the media instead of actual personal knowing of individuals they have no idea about. This is why the topic of engaged Buddhism should be practiced and stressed, to free and open as many minds as we can, just like Buddha did and Thich Nhat Hanh did in their life paths. Even if one person gets changed or impacted, then you did your job successfully in this lifetime to aid and assist humanity in some way. As most people, doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, as long as you're doing the right thing, you are part of that morphogenetic grid that's helping humanity uplift the fallen state of mankind. And engaged Buddhism is the aspects of drawing on the teachings of the Buddha to reflect on issues such as war, nuclear weapons, poverty, globalization, the criminal justice system, climate change, what we're dealing now with the world at the precipice of World War III. I mean, this is true because humanity is still on the path of destruction, regardless of all the knowledge we supposedly have today or access to advanced technology. We're still very backwards, as I still see so much disrespect and hurt when I go out and observe humanity and how they treat each other and how they interact with each other. You know, that's what it basically comes down to. The guy speaking with the accent or the man with the beard or the religious hat still gets judgmental looks from individuals who made no efforts to sit down with them and get to know them personally, to realize that we are all human beings trying to make it and get by, especially in the world as it is right now. I mean, you know, even myself, an example of engaged Buddhism which I have taken upon in my life is to make my presence known wherever I go, for the sake of leaving better roads and perceptions ahead for future Muslims who might find themselves in a situation where they deal with those individuals that I have changed through my character and willingness to be patient with. Our reality is that our inner reality is projected into the external world. So you gotta focus on the inner temple as well. And the way to eliminate suffering, I believe, needs these spiritual practices of inner construction of the mind, body, and soul. To have humanity become ascended masters, just like Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, peace be upon them all. We're in an age where life is becoming more stressful, inflation, crime, uncertainty in relationships and jobs, the way the future is going. We need something to help us feel grounded, some kind of a spiritual discipline or practice in a society where it lacks. I was recently in New York City and I saw that it was just everyone's like in this race for something, moving so fastly, but they're all spiritually depleted. I saw that look in their face, that they were not happy. And that's true. You look at the society today where everyone is divided and conquered upon the basis of gender, religion, socioeconomic status, affiliations, or opinions, where people are kept distracted by the elites of the world, so humanity remains in an endless cycle of bickering, rather becoming one collective consciousness and changing the fate of this world. And I have worked night graveyard shifts, and I have seen how animalistic people can get when they are drunk. All they worry about is food, drink, sleep, bathroom, and sex. And there's a reason why the elites sometimes call humanity useless eaters, who are told what to do and kept in line with jobs, bills, and responsibilities because they cannot think or do on their own. When it comes down to it, the reality of engaged Buddhism, as taught by both Buddha and Thich Nhat Hanh, is that we need to be engaged rather than sitting down idly by, as even in the Masonic path teaches us to do the same. The liberals of America, you know, they try their best to their ability on college campuses, city protests, and other places. But, you know, that is just one example. How much can you really get done with that? A whole collective has to come together. We all need to follow the example of activism, compassion, and making a change, but all through the power of love, compassion, and honest intention towards all of mankind. And that's what practice of engaged Buddhism is required by all over the world, but most importantly in the U.S., which is the modern day Babylon, Rome, Egypt of our time in terms of a superpower nation that is leading the rest of the world. The system of capitalism I have seen here puts people against each other in a fight for survival. Everyone is selling out for material gain or profit. The important lesson we can do to heal this country and the world is to first heal our hearts from all the desensitization we have been put through daily through our cravings of war, news, violent video games, movies. That's not who we really are we? In these different industries which degrade women? I don't think so. That's not who we really are. I believe wherever our spirits originally come from in the universe did not intend for us to be this way. And we should strive and speak up to engage our fellow man and change the world for the better. Now, this is my take on engaged Buddhism. And after this slide, I will focus on several of my favorite quotes from Thich Nhat Hanh and give my Sufi and Masonic interpretation of it. Starting with my first favorite quote of Thich Nhat Hanh is that you have to realize that happiness is not something you find at the end of the road. You have to understand that it is here now. Most of the time we get lost in these possibilities of infinite possibilities of what's going to happen tomorrow or the next day or the day after. From the Sufi and Masonic path, from which I'm an initiate of, it tells me always trust God and do not fear about anything. That's what it is. When you have that conviction that whatever in my life, all the things that I'm meant to do, people that I'm meant to see, places that I'm meant to go, it's all being orchestrated in your life in this divine, sublime plan by the Creator, who is an artist painting your picture on the canvas in a beautiful and vivid manner through the ups and the downs, which are inevitable because you cannot have one without the other, as they're all there to teach you the lessons that you're meant to. And that's what it is. You have to focus on, just pause for a moment and look around you. Observe the situation, people's, places, and things, what you're currently doing. That is your life at the moment. Don't worry about for what's to come or what has passed. There are no coincidences in life. It's like the second Matrix movie, when Neo and Morpheus and Trinity go visit the Merovingian, and they sit down for the dinner, and then they get escorted out. And then Neo, when they're in the elevator, Neo asks Morpheus, is there anything that we could have done or said better, which would have helped us in our purpose? And Morpheus said no. Everything happens the way that it's supposed to. And there are no coincidences in life, and everything is kind of carried out in a divine manner. And as soon as they get off the elevator, the help that they needed was right there in front of them. So that is the divine synchronicity. If you choose to live in the now, then that's what shall be given to you. And yeah, that's the beauty of this human life. We are complicated creatures sometimes, where we might start creating scenarios in our heads about people's, places, and things. Some of it could be true, some of it is not true. But it's that internal battle that we're always fighting within ourselves. Just remove yourself from your body for a second and just look at the stillness of everything around you. Everything is calm, everything is still, everything is fine. That's what it is. You gotta get yourself to that point in a world and situation where everything is so stressed right now. So try to put yourself in that, and that's what Thich Nhat Hanh is teaching us here. My next favorite quote from Thich Nhat Hanh is, to be loved means to be recognized as existing. Once you are acknowledged, I think the greatest love that you can give someone is acknowledge their presence, their talents, gifts, abilities, just their life in general. If you could just sit down and listen to somebody and just tell them, I understand you, and I know everything that you're going through, the aspect of giving somebody a shoulder, or just being there for somebody as a genuine friend and a genuine human being. I think it's the greatest form of love and recognition that you can give in a world where, if you're not getting a set benefit of any kind from an individual or entity or thing, then they hold no value to you, right? We live in a society where if people need something from you, that's when they give value to you. And as soon as they get what they want from you, they just toss you back into the street like a piece of trash. That's not how we're supposed to be as human beings. And the inner contemplation and love that Thich Nhat Hanh is teaching us is that to be loved or to love somebody, you have to recognize them, give them the validation, give them the existence, even if they can't do anything for you. Even the Masonic teachings are teaching us this. It's your character is reflected by how you treat others who can't do anything for you. Those that you can give, but they can't give back to you. That's what it is exactly comes down to. To be in that form of knowing and understanding. This is another one of my favorite quotes from Thich Nhat Hanh that says, to be beautiful means to be yourself. You don't need to be accepted by others. You need to accept yourself. And Thich Nhat Hanh, what he teaches us here is that to free yourself, you got to be yourself. And we have all of these social trends and all this stuff that we see in the world and in the news and different aspects of social media where you have to act a certain way, you have to look a certain way. Just be yourself. Because if everyone in the world was the same according to trends, then wouldn't this world be a boring place? You are perfect, just the way you are. Whoever's listening, you are perfect, just the way you are. Because that's the way the Creator has made us. In our own unique talents, abilities, skills, presence, what we hold, there is no mistake in your design. And that's exactly what it is. Be yourself. Be a free man, even in Freemasonry. You have to be a free man in order to find that oneness with your fellow man, with your brotherhood, with God, and pass that teachings on to others. You don't need anyone to accept you. If you accept yourself, and if you know thyself, and you know thy Lord, and you love thyself, that's something that you can do for others as well. This is another one of my favorite quotes that says, "Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free." And that's exactly what it is. We don't progress in our lives if we are still clinging on to things from the past. With anyone that has hurt us or done us wrong, or offered commitment but then backed out, you can't let those things upset you, because that individual themselves was suffering internally. So without any judgment, you love, you forgive, and then you release it from your etherical spiritual boundaries. So once you're in that form of gratitude and awareness, that's when more blessings come to you. As it even says in the Sufi teachings in the Holy Quran, Surah 14, or chapter 14, verse 7, that if you are grateful, God increases you in favor. In whichever path you are, that's true for any path. If you are in a state of gratitude and wholeness inside by letting go of all of these low vibration behaviors and patterns, then that's when you are able to attract new blessings in your life. So anybody that has hurt you, any situation that has made you feel down, let it go. It was all there to teach you the lessons that you needed. So in the future, you could be the being that you're meant to become. And that's exactly what it is. You just got to keep on keeping on. As a Muslim growing up in the post 9/11 world, this one touched me deeply. And this one, Thich Nhat Hanh tells that in order to rally people, governments need enemies. They want us to be afraid, to hate, so we will rally behind them. And if they do not have a real enemy, they will invent one in order to mobilize us. And that's what it is, right? If you have these different medias and different, let's say, social media or the media in general, if they can make one situation prevalent in everyone's mind at the course of the snap of a finger, where one topic or one situation is trending worldwide, why don't they do that with bringing humanity together, with world peace? Why do they only do that when hate, chaos, or division is involved? Because that's what they feed off of. Even if you watch the movie They Live by Roddy Piper, rest in peace, he puts the sunglasses on and yeah, you have the alien theme and all that stuff, but what is it telling you at the end? What was the source of the problem? It was the mass media that was keeping everyone divided and at each other's necks, right? I mean, growing up as a Muslim in the post 9/11 world, what were they always pushing? Hate Islam and the Muslims, hate Islam and the Muslims. And you look at even 2002, all of 2002, they were talking about anthrax and all these lies about WMDs. They went to Iraq. What happened? They didn't find nothing. Who suffered? Troops here from America, people here in America who lost their loved ones in the service over a lie. People in Iraq who had nothing to do with 9/11. 1 million Iraqis died, their country destroyed. Over what? Over a lie? So that's the thing. And then you had this so much hatred that spelled between the West and the Islam over what? So people at the top could make money and profit off of your suffering, whether it's natural resources or any other factor that gets involved in these wars, even to the all the way to the present situation. Have some discernment when all the celebrities are coming out, all the mass media is coming out, every single institution in the world is coming out for one specific topic or cause to rally you behind it. Just know that that's a red flag, right? If they truly wanted to help people or end poverty or world suffering or genocide of indigenous peoples and giving the lands back to the rightful people, things like that, things that really made a difference, then that's when you know something is not right, because they're not coming out for those things. There are so many places right now that are suffering still. So, without going into more deeper details, anything that's trending right now in terms of what they want you to be behind, have some discernment and have some common sense. That's all I'm saying. The last quote from Thich Nhat Hanh that I would like to discuss is that when another person makes you suffer, it is because he suffers deeply within himself, and his suffering is spilling over. He does not need punishment. He needs help. That's the message he is sending. Now, you can use the she aspect in this as well. And you have this in America going on, where many that grow up in traumatized households, they grow up and it's just an unfortunate situation. They are never able to find that peace within themselves. So that chaos is reflected in their workplaces, in their relations with their friends, significant others. They're jumping from one relation to another, refusing to have any accountability, or refusing to change themselves, but in the end, trying to find that change by going from one situation to another, one job to another, one partner to another. And when you encounter individuals like that, have sympathy for them. Don't get mad at them. Feel sorry for them and pray for them that they find the healing and mercy that they need and deserve. And that's exactly what it is. Sometimes we go through, and if you're in America, 8 out of 10, or at this point right now in this generation, 9 out of 10, you are going to encounter somebody who fits this, who comes from a broken family or a traumatized household, or something happened with them, and that foundation of that human being is already cracked from the base. So growing up, their structure continues to be on a wobbled foundation where they can go off on self-destructive behavior. And when anything like that happens, just know that it's not you, it's them. And they have to find that healing within themselves. They are crying out for help. And that's what it is. But at first, he or she has to admit that there's something wrong and I need to get it right, because that's the only way you can break generational traumas or situations or phases of your life, so the cycles of suffering don't get passed on to your future descendants. And I'm really glad that he has shared this teaching. Thank you all for watching. I hope you were able to take something away from me talking about engaged Buddhism and the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh from the perspective of somebody who is in Sufism and Freemasonry. I thank you so much for watching. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. Again, to reiterate, I represent myself only as a free man under free speech. I do not represent any individual, group, or organization or entity. It's all me. All images used were retrieved from public domain searches and are the rightful property of their respective owners. The images used in this video are for the purpose of nonprofit awareness and education, which is protected by the copyright laws of fair use, education purpose. All my videos are for nonprofit and education purposes. Thank you. All rights reserved.